What's going on, everybody? You know what time of week it is again. It is time for another episode of the Make Money and Have Fun show. Today we're doing a little Spotlight Saturday going on. I got a good friend of mine, super awesome guy, Gene McNaughton, coming out here, who I have to tell you about very soon because he has quite the life story. He's got quite the bio and just so much cool stuff going on in his life. But real quick, I want to remind everybody who's here, if you're watching us, whether you're watching us live on Facebook, on YouTube, or wherever you're at, we have the really cool technology today to be able to actually interact with us. So something really cool is if you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube and you have a question for Gene or myself, or you just want to say, hey, drop it down in the comments. Let us know, and we can actually bring your comment right up on screen, and we can ask your questions live on screen, which is really, really a super cool way to interact with us. Like Les Brown said when he was on this show, technology eliminates geography. And so, you know, I'm hanging out with Gene McNaughton today from California, and wherever you're at in the world, you can stream us as well. And then after this show's over, we're going on to over 15 different podcast channels, and we're even going on to TV. I don't even think I told Gene this yet, but he's going to be on Roku TV as well as Amazon Fire TV. So we're doing all kinds of cool stuff with this show. Now, on that note, I need to introduce this guy to you. So this is quite the bio. Let me read this off to you. So Gene McNaughton is regarded as one of the nation's most effective business growth experts. He spent more than 25 years generating top results from Fortune 500 companies. Gene's history of leadership and achievement has made him an accomplished consultant, public speaker, sales trainer, and a best-selling author. Some of the things that he's done is he's a keynote speaker, he's a sales trainer, he does B2B sales training, he recruits superstar sales and management professionals, he interviews for success, he does strategic sales process creation, he organizes effective training teams, sales training strategies, or consultative selling, if you will, using cutting-edge methods on how to hunt new accounts, keep your accounts, and grow your accounts. Check out some of this other stuff. So Gene has 25 years experience, including spending over a decade at Gateway Computers, working alongside senior management in leading multiple sales teams. His expertise in sales growth, leadership, management, training, coaching, and development of both sales and support personnel has led him to successes in implementing strategies for organizations ranging from $2 million a year to $2.5 billion per year. This was the one that knocked me out of my seat when I read this. Check this out. So Gene McNaughton has taken his award-winning sales leadership strategies to a distinct level as he led the global sales force as vice president for that guy that I'm sure some of us have heard of, known as Tony Robbins Companies, shattering sales records for over 3 consistent years. And Gene was also privileged to become one of the few opening act speakers for Tony Robbins' cornerstone event, Unleash the Power Within. So without any further ado, let's hear it for Mr. Gene McNaughton.
Freddie.
What's going on, man? How are you?
Freddie, it's a great day and it's a great moment for personal development. And I want to acknowledge whoever's watching right now. I can't see you, but you can see me on Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. I want to acknowledge you for taking time out of your busyness of life, especially during the holidays, to listen in and get a little nugget. I know that over the years, sometimes whether it's just driving around listening to tapes of Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins, or listening to CDs and eventually now on my phone, that you never know when that treasure nugget is going to drop into your lap. You're going to hear something you've never heard. You're going to, maybe you're dealing with a problem right now, and something that I say or Fred says can kind of give you an angle to take your decision-making process on another path. So let's see what happens here. Good job on being here. And Fred, bring the questions on. I want to see if I can help some people.
Let's do it, man. I love that. I love that so much because I always talk about the entrepreneurial journey on this show. So I titled the show Make Money and Have Fun. And Make Money and Have Fun is kind of my cornerstone mantra, with the idea being that in business, we need both. We need both the income and the fulfillment. And oftentimes what happens is we enter this entrepreneurial roller coaster, as I'm sure you're well aware of, yes, where there's peaks and there's plenty of valleys as well. And it's sometimes when we're stuck in that valley, it's hard to see the upcoming peak. But like you said, just doing those little things every day, those daily wins, they compound over time, and eventually something clicks, something turns, and all of a sudden, we're an overnight success 30 years in the making.
Well, yeah, I love the title of your show. And if you ask me my opinion, I would say make money, keep money, grow money, and be fulfilled. But do all three. Because I've done the make a lot of money, but I didn't learn how to keep the money. Something that's interesting, Fred, is very few people teach true financial money management.
Yes.
And, wherever you are in your entrepreneur or sales career, I highly recommend that you study money. And that could be any book by Warren Buffett. It could be Harv Eker wrote a great book, The Millionaire Mind. There's another great book, The Millionaire Next Door.
Yep.
I read those books, but I didn't do what they said when if I circle back 20 years ago. I made a lot of money, but I learned real fast how to spend that money I made, because it can go fast.
Sure.
Car, house, second house, bigger house, second car, second nicer car, purses, jewelry, watches. It goes fast. And I only wish if I could rewind the clock 20 years. I'm 53 years old, so I go back to my 33, 34-year-old self. I'd say take a course and study money just like you'd study any other subject. Learn about things like compounding interest. Learn about what some would say is a myth. I believe in my history is true, the rule of 72. Do you know what that is, Freddie?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
What is it?
It's basically the idea of how long it takes for your money to double or something like that.
Yeah, what the rule of thumb, now it's not 1,000% accurate, but mentally get this together, is that every 7 years the money you have will double. And you learn about it. Why is this important? If you're 25 or 30 or 35, 40 years old, it's probably not important. What I want to say is study money. If you just say, yeah, this rule of 72 could be accurate, Google it. But it says if you got $10,000 today in 7 years by just basic 10% growth year over year, and we've seen much more than that depending on what you're investing in.
Sure.
The basic 10%, 8 to 10% year over year, that 10,000 would be worth 20. And in another 7 years, that 20 would be worth 40. And in another 7 years, that 40 would be worth 80. Just like, if you think about that, now that I'm 53 and I look back at the 401k money that I put away and left, and I look at that, I'm like, oh my God, that thing has like a sapling tree has grown into something nice. So
exactly,
just wherever you are in your career, unless you're a financial expert, I would say make a New Year's resolution that you're going to read at least one, but say you're going to read 4 books on money. Now, and I'm not talking about the stock market, while that's an important piece. I'm talking about studying the psychology, the strategy, and the tactics of how to manage money.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. I love that. So I don't know. Here's the funny thing, Gene. I'm gonna ask you about your story in a minute, but my story is actually funny that you brought that up, because I started out in just finances. I mean, for me, it was all money. I nerded out. I geek out over paying bills every month, because I'm like, I can move this credit card to here, and then that one goes there. It's like a game for me. And I started out with real estate investing and then some stock market investing, and it's just grown and grown and grown since there. But you are absolutely correct, hit the nail on the head. And I couldn't agree more. I think that one of the things that's missing from our formal education system in most places is an education on money. And so, I think that if people can learn that basic foundation, it's all just growth from there.
Yeah, Freddie, I'd say it's all just a game until the numbers get really big and you make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And it's not a game anymore.
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying study it now.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Totally. So, Gene, let me ask you the question that I ask all of my guests when I bring them on this show. What is your story? And you can answer that however you'd like.
I'll keep it brief, because some people I don't want anybody to tune out on the story. Raised in a small town in Iowa, Sioux City. My dad was a laborer. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Had 5 sisters previous to me. So I was the youngest, the baby, and the only boy. Was blessed to be in a wonderful community of Sioux City, Iowa. and it was a blue collar labor city, stockyards. Like, we were the city that all the cattle farmers and pig farmers brought their animals to sell, right? We were the stockyard city. I was more blessed that I was able to go to the local college, a Division II school on a football scholarship, and stay home and kind of be the hometown. I grew up 2 blocks from the college I went to, and was fortunate to play football there. And right at the time I was in college, a little computer company had started called Gateway Computers. And there were, a lot of people I knew worked there. And I was blessed to be able to go to work there, starting in the night shift on the sales team, literally working from 1 to 10 on a telephone, on a headset.
Wow.
During that course, those of you that are old enough to remember, so 1990, 91, 92, that's when the computer revolution really took place, where what we take for granted now, laptops and computers in our house because we're all on them. But back then, that was an unusual thing. Computers were very expensive. And companies like Gateway were able to streamline the expense. And instead of you having to pay $8,000 for a home computer, imagine that, we could sell them for $2,000 and $3,000. And that company exploded. So you're in a rising tide where suddenly everybody could get a computer at their house. And I was in the right place at the right time. I sensed the opportunity, and I worked my butt off. During the course of selling over the phone, I was reading Tony Robbins books, and he talked about something called modeling. Find somebody who's done, or find somebody who's doing what it is you want to do, and copy them. He called it modeling. And, in a very short period of time of selling on the phones and working really hard, I found myself not achieving what I wanted to achieve. And that chapter in Personal Power, his first book, or Unlimited Power, I was like, okay, I've got great people around me. We were all in cubicles, right? So there was 80, 90, 100 salespeople just on a floor. And I'm like, why don't I just get the courage? I'm 23, 24 years old. Why don't I get the courage to just ask them if I could sit with them and listen to them? Because sales training was kind of a novelty. There wasn't any sales training. You were expected, if you were hired, that you knew how to sell. And we all know that's not true. Nobody's born with selling, being a salesperson. Some people are born more overt, right? Some people can go to a room and meet people. That's wildly different than understanding the strategy and tactic of building rapport and asking questions, fulfilling a need, asking for business, handling objections. You know what I mean? It's like there's no such thing as a natural born salesperson. There's natural born overt people or not, but you have to learn how to sell. So I got the courage, and I started, asking people around me that were driving nice cars and wearing nice clothes and living in beautiful houses. Like, I was so shy and I thought they were going to say no, because, I'm the new guy, and, who are you to ask me? And shockingly, every one of them said, yeah, no problem. Let's go to lunch, or let's go get a coffee, or I'll meet you in the break room and I'll walk you through what I do. And I was like, oh my God. The lesson for you that's listening right now is, who around you is doing something that you admire? And how can you just say, hey, can I buy you lunch? Now think about it. If you buy somebody a $10 lunch and they drop about 45 minutes of their lessons learned and their mistakes they made, that's a pretty good investment of $10 for lunch, or 15 or whatever, right? Depending on where you live. Like, just think about that. Who is it that you know? It could be your neighbor. It could be a coworker. It could be somebody at your church. We're virtual now too. So 15-minute little video conference like this, and say, hey, I just wanted to, by the way, here's something I hate. Can I pick your brain on whatever? I don't like that. I get that 10 of those a day on LinkedIn.
I'm sure.
I'd like to pick your brain on becoming a speaker. I'd like to pick your brain. Now, these are people that I don't know. They don't know me. They weren't referred to me. I didn't have a friend come and say, hey, would you meet with, Tommy, who's looking to do this? But it add value to the other person. But I would challenge you, as we're going through my story, I would challenge you right now, like 2021, who are the 3 to 5 people that you have a relationship with right now? There's some level of proximity. Think about church, neighbors, coworkers, maybe somebody that's on this, Freddie, whatever. Greg Reed, I go to an event to speak at Greg Reed's house. There's Freddie. Freddie had paid money to come for a mastermind. And was that worth it, Fred?
Oh, absolutely. Every dollar spent was absolutely worth it.
Oh, shoot. I'm here on a Saturday morning with you.
Exactly.
Right? And I would never have known you, Freddie. And I meet you and I'm like, what a quality guy. So anyway, I learned the power of modeling and I started to apply that to everything in my life. If somebody was doing something or achieving something or winning the awards or had the great body or had an awesome relationship with their spouse, I'm like, okay, what can I learn? I don't have to invent everything. I just got to be astute enough and curious enough to study who's successful and try to understand their patterns. And getting the courage to be able to say, hey, how did you do that? Like, my gosh, that's you just won, Sales Excellence Award. Can I interview you? And you know what I find, Fred, and I want everybody that's watching or listening to get this, is that almost all successful people feel it is their moral obligation to share their insights with others.
Yes.
If you have somebody around you and you're shy or you're ashamed or you're too embarrassed to ask for help, get over it. Because the only thing if I went reverse order, I would quickly go to those same people, and it wouldn't have taken me 8 months to get the courage to ask the top performers what they were doing. I would have done it in month 1, right? You can accelerate everything it is you want to do. And here's what I'd say is, if you got to spend some money by buying a lunch, a bottle of wine, whatever. I mean, I've had some mentors that have given me time, and I bought them something really nice and surprised them with a gift to thank them because they gave me that key insight or strategy or connection that radically transformed my life. So and here's the thing, you, whoever's listening here, it's an amazing journey when you go from mentee, the person seeking the advice, to transitioning to mentor, the person giving the advice. And if you do these things, I don't know where you are in your career, entrepreneurial journey, job, network marketing, whatever you do, but be the best at it. And to be the best, find the best. When you find the best, figure out how you can curiously and with gratitude ask them questions like, what would you do if you were me? How would you take this on? Those questions are so critical, and that is where the gold is. Freddie, sorry, I'm totally bogarting this entire interview.
No worries. I
get turned on. Plus, the K-Cups with Starbucks now have double caffeine. Hello.
Is that what it is? Well, I know for you it's a little bit earlier there, so you got to do what you got to do, right?
I'm rocking, man. I'm excited.
I love that, man. That you literally hit the nail on the head. It's for me, I'm bringing on major players to this show, and every time I'm reaching out to them and I'm asking them, just like you said, and it takes that courage. You're like, crap, what if they say no? But the funniest part is that once again, in my case, nobody has told me no so far, and I'm booked up all the way through February for this show already, and it's amazing how sometimes you talked about, it's a great day for personal development today. And it's amazing how oftentimes personal development, at least for me, going to seminars like the one at Greg Reed's house and so many others, you start to hear the same little things rehashed. And you get to the point where you're like, it can't be that easy, can it? and sometimes it's just the simplest things that allow that much growth. What would you say it was for you, like back in that sales office, talking with some of these top producers that you would say is kind of like those little simple things to kind of increase your sales and get you going in that realm?
Well, I can still remember it to this day, and I write about it in my book, is I sat down with 4 people. Now, here's what I did. I'm not saying you do this. I'm saying here's what I did in that time. I had vacation days. So instead of taking a vacation day and going somewhere, I was in the middle of South Dakota in a carved out cornfield. I mean, that's where our building was. I took 2 vacation days and then came into the office and I dedicated half of a day to one of the top sellers, another half to another. So I had 4 people I was going to meet with, and I met with them for 4 hours. Then I took that one to lunch. Then I met with the other one and took that one out for beers afterwards, right? Right. So I gave back.
Yep.
And I observed and asked questions. I was open. I watched everything, how they managed their time. I watched how they orchestrated their file drawers, right? That's a novel concept. But in the olden days, we had real files, folks. No Dropbox or ShareFile or Google Drive, right? Yeah. I watched how they talked to people. I watched how they wrote callbacks down from their voicemail. I watched everything. And here's what I found was they were all similar but different. They all had different nuances of what made them great. And I began to write them down. And ironic, you mentioned what I have behind me here. I went back to my cubicle and I took all these notes and I wrote them on sticky notes. And I still follow this sticky note site. I mean, it's just happened to be, I'm in my little office war room here. And I'm obviously building a business. I don't think you can see all that, but you can start to see the complexity that happens with building a real business, not a one-man band, but a real brand new company. And I can talk about that today too. But I put sticky notes all around my cubicle, what to say, how they handled the price objection, how they handled talking about a competitor, how somebody that was on the fence, they moved them from on the fence to saying yes, how they dealt with in those days, you could have one call with a single person that was looking for a computer, or you could have a call with an elderly person that was looking to play solitaire. Remember that? And the next call could be Ford Motor Company looking for a quote on 500 computers. It was insane. It was crazy. And so modeling was probably the most important thing. And I learned that from reading books, most notably the Tony Robbins' first book.
Yep.
And I took it to heart. You will start to find over time that when you listen to the sages, and I say the sages, my favorites, there's a lot of great ones. My favorites are Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, of course, Zig Ziglar. You listen to these, Wayne Dyer is another one that just, for some reason, if you hear a lot of voices, some are going to resonate with you and some are not. These are the ones that resonated with me. And I listened over and over. I would drive around early mornings on Saturday morning. I remember this distinctly. I'd listen to Jim Rohn on a tape, and then I'd go drive around the biggest, most expensive neighborhoods in my area, just listening and looking and listening and looking and listening and looking and visualizing and seeing myself living in one of these giant homes. And so I just listened and modeled and I learned, and I just was an animal with it.
Yeah.
30 years, 20 years later, it's turned out okay.
I love that. I love that so much. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. I mean, for me, in my head, it's, he's top dog, and then everybody else is kind of under him. And you could, people vary where they place him, but for me, it's really cool that we're both kind of on that same frequency. I actually got Unlimited Power right on my bookshelf right now. Yeah. I got Awaken the Giant Within. I got his Money Master the Game book. I just, like you said, just kind of dive all into this education, and absolutely love this guy. But it's funny that you bring that up, because you have some affiliations, as I saw with your bio, with the Anthony Robbins Foundation. How did that end up coming about or happening? What's the story there?
Fred, I'm assuming you talk a little bit about the law of attraction on this show.
Of course, absolutely. Okay,
let me play out the law of attraction. So yeah. I want to rewind the clock back to 2003. Now, Gateway had grown dynamically from when I started to, 11 years later. We were a tiny company when I started. 11 years later, we were a $10 billion company with 21,000 employees. Just do the math in 10 years. Most people, like, if you look back and go, well, that's right, I do remember seeing a Gateway commercial every time I watched a football game. Yes, we were all over, and we were in China, we were in Europe, we were in Australia. It exploded. And sometimes when companies go from a smaller family company to a large Fortune 200 publicly traded company, things change. And things change there. I didn't love it anymore. Plus all my stock options were worth nothing. So I was worth at one moment $4 or $5 million on paper. And here's a little financial lesson for some of you. When you have paper money, don't spend your real money like it's going out of style, right? Because I did that. I'm like, I got all these stock options, and I'd take whatever I made and go on better trips and better vacations and buy a nicer car and all that stuff. That's what I'm saying. Study money, my friends. But that paper money went away. The stock market can change. So I was looking for a new opportunity. I left Gateway, and I remember I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to do. And he said, Gino, why don't you practice what you've been teaching people all these years? I go, what do you mean? He goes, get clear on what you want. And he said, if you could do anything, what would you do? Now, remember, I was in Kansas City in Overland Park on Shawnee Mission Parkway. So if anybody knows where I'm talking about, if you're there, I was right by the J. Alexander's restaurant by the Sprint headquarters. I remember it to the T. Now, I can't even tell you my home phone number, but I remember that. And I said, well, that's easy. I was listening to Personal Power 2 at that moment in my Honda Accord. And I said that I'd go work for Tony Robbins. That's what I'd do. And he said, then put that intention out there and go make it happen. And who would have ever on the face of this earth, I still can't explain it other than the secret, the law of attraction, whatever. I got a call 2 days later from an executive recruiter that said, hey, what do you think about moving to California? Nope, I hate California. It's the land of fruits and nuts. That's what I thought. Right, when you're from Iowa, you just think California is just whack, right? Yep. I've never really been here, and when I had been here, there's 5 lanes of back-to-back traffic, and I'm like, this is not for me. I'm a small town boy. And I was about ready to, politely disconnect the call. And she said, wait. She goes, I have been referred to you by 3 people. They say you're the ideal guy for this job. And I'm like, look, I have no desire to move to California. I'm so sorry. Thank you. It's an honor. And she said, okay, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but this is for Anthony Robbins. Have you ever heard of him? And I'm like, what? And that is legit documented fact. That when I said that, they were in a search. Somehow they talked to somebody that saw me speak or knew me from Gateway, and that recruiter found my number and called me. And then I fast-tracked it. That was a Tuesday. I said, who do I need to talk to in the company? Like, I knew how the recruiting game worked. And the following weekend, not 4 days later, but 10 days later, he happened to be having an Unleash the Power Within event down in Florida. I got tickets sent to me. I'd never been in first class before. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? This is crazy. Like, I'd never had food delivered to me on a plane. Oh my God. I go down and I do the fire walk, and I'm just, in my mind, I kept saying, you know what, even if I don't get this job, I've finally seen the master in person.
Sure.
And I remember going through the event, and then second day, there was a dinner break, and I get a phone call on my cell phone saying, Tony and Sage, his wife, want to meet you. And I'm like, huh? Are you kidding me? And I had all this interview prep and the best answers to every question. And I didn't expect that I was going to go actually meet Tony Robbins. And I was so nervous and stressed. And then my, significant other at that time said, just go be yourself. Put your notes down. Don't even take them in there. Just go answer the questions and be yourself. And if it's right, then it's right. And sure enough, it was just start asking questions. And I'm still in the holy shit. I'm sitting by Tony Robbins. And oh my God, that's his wife. And oh my God, what am I doing here in this giant suite? But I just said, okay, here's my take, and here's how it goes. And I just had the confidence in myself that, I didn't know everything, but I knew what I knew. But I certainly knew his work, and I certainly had read the books and listened to the tapes and all of that. And 90 minutes later, he said, you're the guy. And I remember we get done with the interview in the suite, and his staff is there going, Tony, dancer's on stage. We got to get back on stage. And we had to go down this back elevator and get in a vehicle and drive to the other side from the hotel to the auditorium. And he's just like, I'm walking with him. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. And I walk all the way from behind the stage up the steps. And he gets he does his power moves. And then he kind of grabs me by the face and he says, "You're the man. You're the man. You're the guy. Work it out. I love you, buddy. It's going to be an amazing ride." And then literally he clips his little microphone that he had his headset on. And then he walks, he goes, "Wake it up out there." And I'm just standing there with goosebumps. Like, I'm behind the curtain for the first time looking out at a sea of 5,000 people in an arena. I'm just like, I can't believe this. And, it was started with intention. It started with clarity. And then 60 days later, I was global VP of sales for Tony Robbins. I was in 60 days later, April 4th, I was in Sydney, Australia at an event. It's amazing what can happen when you declare what it is you want and declare it with confidence and put things out into the universe. This is a good time of year, my friends, to do that as we're leaving a year and starting a year. Anytime, it's great. This is kind of like that reset, holidays, and then what's next year going to look like, especially this year after what we've gone through in 2020. Especially now is the time to say, this is the year, 2021, that I'm going to take everything to another level. And then you say, if it's your income, what's that next income level with specificity? Not, I want to make more money. I want to go from this amount of money to this specific amount of money. I want my body, be honest with yourself. Don't bullshit yourself. What's your body look like? Get in the underwear and get in front of the mirror, get on the scale and say, okay, am I loving it, or do I need to make it better than it is or improve it? And it's okay, but most people, Fred, don't even have the courage to set a goal. Less than 10% of, at least in America, write out their goals with specificity, and you can talk to people and they'll say, "Yep, I got goals." What are they? They can't tell you. Yeah. And I'm telling you right now, whoever's watching or listening, that there isn't a person that you admire in this world that doesn't set goals. Somebody said this, the first person to the top of Mount Everest wasn't just going for a walk that day, right? I mean, anybody who's done something that you admire is a goal setter. I hope you are, but if you're not, why not? Yeah. You know what's amazing? It costs us $10 or maybe $12. I got kind of a fancy to go buy a journal. $10. And it costs us nothing to get into your journal and write your goals, right? Here's mine. Here's my process, Fred. You didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you. I buy the new journal at the beginning of the year. Here's my 2020 up there. I sit down. I write out everything it is I want to do. So in this page, it was 4 pages. And I had fun with it. God, if it could be, I wanted 3 trips to Vegas, 2 international trips, go back to Iowa, my hometown, 3 times. All right. Now, some of these things were disrupted because of COVID. Go camping 5 times. Now, I'm not talking about just write down. I have financial goals in there. I have physical goals. But what do I want to do with my kids? What am I going to coach a sport? Like, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to coach flag football. Like, would that have happened had I not set a goal to do it? Who knows? But I set the goal and I'm doing it. There's a point where I don't question it. Oh, I wonder if it's like, I'm going to coach flag football. I didn't know I was going to be able to coach flag football a year ago. This is the 3rd team I've coached during COVID, the Underground Football League. Take a fun trip. Take all the kids to Iowa or North Carolina. All kids in church a minimum of 1 time a month, right?
Yeah.
And I set this stuff and lay it out, and then I journal throughout the year. So I listen to a podcast. Freddie, if you remember, we met at Greg Reed's in, was it April, May? Were you there?
It was June or July, I think.
June or July.
Yeah, middle of summer.
one of the things I like about being one of the speakers or content contributors is I get to go watch the other people.
Yeah.
Right. And if Freddie saw me, this is the journal I had in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the deal, my friends. You never know when a gold nugget is going to fall into your hands. You're going to hear it. In fact, I heard one the other day, and I wrote it down, and then it made it to my journal. And the guy said, in the absence of value, price is always too high. And I thought, God, I've never heard this. In all the books I've read, I've never heard it. And it goes, first thing I do is let me get it to my journal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm writing it down right now.
Value, price is always too high. And, I've been reading and teaching sales for 25 years and never heard those words in that order. You never know. I would think that I've heard it all. I've studied more than the average duck, and this is all I've done since 20. Actually, if I go back to 16 years old selling shoes at the Athlete's Foot while I was in high school, and then selling jewelry in the mall, and then selling high-end shoes while I was in college to help pay for college and buy my beer money, I guess. Right? So I've been selling something that the better, commissioned, where you get commission since I was 16. So that would say 26, 36, 46. That's 30, geez Louise, that's 37 years.
Wow.
That I've only been selling. And even leading a company, you're selling. You're selling people to join you. You're selling people to join the movement. You're selling people to achieve goals. You're selling managers to manage better. You're selling people to perform at their maximum potential, right? It never stops. So there you have it. What was the question again? Sorry about that.
I don't even remember at this point, but if I could sum up this interview in one word, that word would be wow. That story about manifestation and Tony Robbins, it just completely resonates with me. And goal setting. Goal setting is another huge one. The funny thing for me is creating more specificity. I think with the goals is oftentimes the underlying key to either success or lack of success due to a lack of specificity. Like, for instance, I had Dr. Obon Bowen on my show a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he sent me a picture of his calendar and it was like interview with Fred, and then right after it was like cuddle time with my wife. And I'm like, I start putting cuddle time with my girlfriend in my calendar and stuff like that. And it's like these little things.
Dude, I'm lacking in the cuddle time achievement area. I'm going to add that. That's beautiful.
Exactly. And I was like, oh man, I gotta step my game up. So like one of my goals, one of my big things for 2021 is I want to do a TED Talk. And like you said, it's kind of just putting it out into the universe right now and, letting it happen. I mean, I've had so many different experiences happen just because of that law of attraction. I became good friends with Les Brown this year was one of the big things.
Oh my gosh.
That was on my mind, hanging out with Greg Reed. Here's something funny. Did I ever tell you the story about how I met Greg Reed?
Nope.
So it's actually pretty funny, and I'll keep it brief because I want to kind of wrap this up here in a minute. But I worked for a guy named Larry Steinhaus, and Larry Steinhaus was mentored by Greg Reed, who was part of the Mastermind Association, putting all that kind of stuff together. And he's like, "Oh, my mentor is Greg Reed." And as soon as he said his mentor is Greg Reed, I'm like, "Okay. I want to get mentored by my mentor's mentor. So I'm going to figure out a way to connect with Greg Reed." And I just kind of kept putting that seed out into the universe. And then I guess 2 or 3 months later, I saw that Greg Reed had a little website called Credible Source. And you could book a coaching call with him for $1,000. And I'm a firm believer that those who invest the most in themselves will have the most invested back into them. And so I'm like, all right, $1,000, here we go. And I jumped with him on this call, and we just resonated right away. And he blew my mind, absolutely. Like you said, it was like golden nugget after golden nugget. And then I've been, following him and good friends with him kind of ever since. Rode out to his house that one time and, gotten a bunch of his books and met a whole bunch of cool people from there. So again, it's just that same thing of put it out into the universe and let's see what grows from it.
Yeah, I want to add something for you that are watching right now or listening is this. Think about some of the things that you're most proud of in your life. Like right now, what's amidst all the turmoil, there's things that you're proud of. You wouldn't be listening to a personal development podcast or watching this if you weren't somebody that was an achiever. It's just how it goes. Achievers do what you're doing right now. Trace it back to the origin. And the origin usually started with some type of intent, a desired outcome, a dream. And then you met somebody, you read something, you observed something, you watched something, and it like little breadcrumbs were left for you here and there that you grabbed and you moved towards. And when you play things out over time and reverse engineer all of the breadcrumbs, for example, many of you that are listening and watching right now have never heard of me. You've never heard my voice at all. And maybe something I'm saying is going to radically shift the way you look at and observe the reality around you. Maybe you're going to go get that book, or you're going to take that course, or you're going to hire Fred as a coach, or you're going to get Fred's program, whatever. But little trails of breadcrumbs, because we can go all the way back to how did I get to this moment right now, you listening and me speaking in Orange County, California, wherever you are on the planet, right?
Yeah.
Can go all the way back to a friend of Greg Reed saw me open for Tony, saw me on stage, approached me, we became friends. Greg Reed back in 2007 decides he's going to make a movie, kind of a follow-on movie of The Secret. He invites me to be on it. I meet Greg, we become friends. Right? Like all of those strange series of events, going all the way back to me being in my red Honda Accord on Shawnee Mission Parkway and taking the call from the recruiter and following through on that call and taking the action led me to where I am right now. And had I not done those things, had I not been somebody that was an action taker, that saw an opportunity and made the call, right? A lot of you see an opportunity come your way and then you hem and you haw and you hem and you haw, and you're afraid to send the text. You're afraid to send the email. You're afraid to ask that mentor, can I get some advice? Isn't that true? But I can reverse all the way down. No, I'm not perfect, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I can look back on things that I regret. I think we're all human. I'm not like the guy that's professing that I'm the greatest thing in the world, but I can trace back things that have worked exceptionally well all the way back to its origin of taking action. And it all started with saying, I want to go to work for Tony Robbins, right? 2004. So we're talking about 16, 17 years ago. And here I am today. Now, I'm excited, and I hope you are, about what the next 5 years looks like. I'm excited about what the next 10 years looks like. The big question is do you know what it looks like? Have you visualized in your head, being able to drive what you want to drive, wear what you want to wear, live where you want to live, in the house you want to live in, around the people you want to be around? Have you visualized that? And if you haven't, I want to excitedly invite you to consider the fact that you can do that. You can start thinking about it right now. 5 years. I mean, we radically, as human beings, Fred, overestimate what we can do in 30 days. And a lot of people will be taking that on in the next couple of weeks because they'll set their New Year's resolutions. I'm going to lose the weight. I'm going to quit the habit. I'm going to start this. I'm going to read 10 books. Sure. And they get all excited and writing these things down on their little sticky notes or whatever. And we radically overestimate what we can do in 30 days. But as humans, we radically underestimate what we can do over the course of a year, 2 years, and 5 years. And I want to invite everybody to think about that as we go into this holiday season. What are you 1 year from now, if you can look back 1 year from now? So now it's December, whatever date it is, 20th or whatever today is. And in 1 year, you look back and go, holy cow, I crushed it. This was the best year of my life. What would have to happen for you to say that? 5 years from now, you look back at the previous 5 and you say, oh my God, I never thought I could make it here. But then inside you go, yeah, I did. I laid it out. And you look back and say, I never thought I could make that kind of money. I never thought I could attract these beautiful people into my life or look the way I look, right? Now, what does that look like? And I advise, as we wrap up here, Fred, I'm literally going to coach flag football and achieve another one of my goals that I wrote down in this journal.
Yes.
The game's at 9:30 Pacific. Even when there's no sports in California, me and a bunch of dads got created, and we created something called the Underground Football League. So it's unofficial sports, but we're getting the kids together and playing football and pulling flags and running plays. Right? Even when there's no sports, it's amazing that you can find a way to achieve outcomes.
Yes.
Watch your Facebook today. You'll see pictures, underground football. I would invite you to go to Target, Walmart, whatever. They got journals, blank books. They cost $10. You can spend a little more and get a fancy cover. And you sit down for the next, 2 weeks and you think, okay, if my life was perfect in my sense, right? In my mind, if my life was great, what would it look like? Money, body, health, relationships. Those are the big ones. Spirituality. I like to write down places I want to go, vacations I want to take, how many times I want to go to church a month, how many books I'm going to read. Just, it's your world. I mean, you can manifest through journaling and writing things down the life of your dream, regardless of where you are. And you know what? I was on a podcast like, Gene, you're so successful. How did you get? I was like, well, I don't consider myself successful, because there's other goals, right?
Yeah.
I'm in pursuit of success. I would agree to that. And I've been in pursuit of success in my mind. Success is all in our own mind. I've been in that pursuit for, since I was in sports in grade school. Always in pursuit. I don't feel successful. I feel like I'm on the path. I feel like I'm open to what the universe has to offer. I feel like, could I do better at everything? Yes. Elon Musk, dude's got more money than he could ever imagine. He could not even spend it if he tried. And you watch that guy, and he's going, you know what? We got to get to the moon. We got to get to, where's he going? Mars. Like, oh my God. What is that guy manifesting?
Yeah. It's insane.
Who would have thought?
Gene, this has been one of my favorite shows by far. I'm sitting here taking this in like a student. I'm just like, man, this is amazing stuff going on here. But let's wrap everything up for people. I want to know what's next for you, Gene. What's the next big thing that Gene McNaughton's been hiding in the closet? What do you got going on?
I'm taking on the ultimate challenge. And that is, like I said, you never know where things are going to go. But I met a company. I did a keynote speech 3 years ago in Los Angeles. I didn't get paid for it. It was a freebie that was to benefit a charity. And mostly it was business leaders that were in the keynote. And I talked about one of the subject matters I teach in my book, had a 1 hour keynote. And it just so happened one of the business leaders in LA, a guy that was a coach of CEOs, had one of his clients that was here from London, that lives in the UK. And my talk resonated. Remember, I did not get paid for this talk. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And I wanted to benefit the charity. He approached me and said, hey, I've got an engineering firm in the UK. We're in 5 countries, Finland, Sweden, Germany, London, Europe. He goes, you think this stuff will work there? I'm like, absolutely. Tell me about what you're doing. And so that turned into a sales training and consulting relationship. And oftentimes when you do good work as a teacher, a coach, a consultant, whatever you do, when you do good work that produces quantified results, they tend to keep you around. So I'll play this out really quick. And my company ended up building all of their sales processes. They sell to the government, they sell to big companies, and they sell to people that live in residential homes. It's a ground engineering service. When the ground moves, cement has to be fixed. They're a company that would do that in a very modern and creative and inexpensive way. Well, during COVID, so I had a 3-year relationship with them. I'm sorry, 2.5 years. And we concluded our relationship this year in January. And during COVID, I'm like, okay, something for you all to think about if you're an entrepreneur. There's only 3 ways that you grow your business. One is you keep your accounts longer, right? You increase the longevity of your contracts or the what you charge them, your average sales price. The second way is to hunt new business. That's the hardest way, but everybody's got to learn how to hunt. And the third way is more business from your existing or former clients. So during COVID, I started reaching out to my former clients saying, hey, I'm home. I've got plenty of time. Why don't we do some free sessions? I won't charge you. So I started doing that for this company out of Europe. And about a month later, the owner, CEO, called me and said, hey, I would like to take our relationship to the next level. I'm like, great, timing is perfect. We're on lockdown. I can dedicate as much time as you need. And he says, no. This is different. I want to, as you know, I've been eyeing launching into America. And I said, great, how can I help it? He said, I want you to run it. I said, you want me to build an engineering company in California? Yes, I do. So I have accepted that, and now I am from scratch with investment capital, of course, building an engineering firm that we plan to take national over the next 5 years. Wow. So I'm taking on the ultimate challenge, which is taking everything it is I've learned and building a business in a field I know very little about. That's interesting. I'm not a civil engineer. I don't have an engineering background. I do know how to build a business. I have learned from a lot of people, and I've taken a lot of businesses. I've consulted over 159 companies, helped grow Gateway, helped grow the Tony Robbins company. So that's my big challenge. And Fred, you could even set a marker to say, we're going to come back and talk in 6 months. And I'll tell you how it's going. So you look back here and you see everything from established corporate entity to get employer identification number, to banking, to payroll, to bookkeeping, to HR, to benefits, to insurance, to website, to search engine optimization, to paid spend marketing, to working with recruiters to recruit the engineers and the sellers. Like, I am building a national company from scratch. And if you want to come back and check in and the audience wants to hear how it's going, you can get a lesson in this real time. I plan to build a national brand that dominates a space, a niche market space. That's the goal.
I love that. Yeah, you're invited back as much as you want, Gene. This has been absolutely incredible. This is one of my top like 3 favorite shows that I've done here, and I've done quite a few. So
how do I get to number 1? How do I get to number 1? That's the achiever mindset. Okay, top 3. Are you kidding? I want to be 1. How do I do better than Les Brown? That's what I'm talking about here. I need to go watch that. There's nobody. I mean, Les Brown is a living legend.
He's amazing.
John Affleck, living legend. Greg Reed, living legend. Like, you don't have to know these people. Now, you can buy your way in like Fred did.
Sure.
Right? But here's the last thing I want to leave everybody here with. Just remember this. It's one thing to get free information, right? Like we're doing right now. It's a wildly different experience for you when you put your own hard-earned money down as an investment in yourself. When you plop that money down and somebody moves from being a mentor that gives you advice to somebody you're paying to coach you to the result, everything in the relationship changes. Your commitment changes because when you pay attention, right? You know what I mean? People will spend $10 on a book and not read it, but they're not going to spend $1,000 on a coach and not listen.
Absolutely.
Right? I wouldn't be here had Freddie not spent the money to go to Greg Reed's mastermind. I was one of the instructors in the mastermind. We connected, stay connected, and now Freddie's got this podcast or whatever we're doing here. All I know is hopefully there's, several hundred or, thousands of people listening right now. Never would have happened had Freddie not plopped his credit card down and said, okay, I'm going to invest in this. And because you invested, you got connected to me, probably Scott Duffy, some great people that Greg runs with.
Absolutely.
And here's the last thing I'll say is this, spend the money if you can't, if you're not directly connected to somebody, then you can buy your way in. You can hire, I don't know, Fred, you have coaching services, whatever. Hire Fred. Fred got to me. And I'm carving out a Saturday morning to impart my wisdom with you. I'm not getting paid for this because I believe it's my moral obligation to teach both my mistakes and my, which are the lessons, right? You learn more from your mistakes than you do from your wins. At least I do. Mm-hmm. And to impart that on the masses. It's a moral obligation to teach, I think. And I want to remind people that you see somebody successful or whatever you deem, they've got something that you want. They're doing something you want. You will be happily surprised to know that people are glad to lend their advice. It's a wildly different situation when you spend the money and now that person's on the hook, you're on the hook, and you tend to follow through when you spend the money. I know I have. I know that when I spent the money on the coach that I believe was the right coach for me at that time, I was listening, I was doing the activities, I was filling out the forms, I was all the stuff that needed to happen, and my life radically transformed. It's different. I used to give books away to people. And then I'd say, how's the book? Oh, yeah, it's good. What did you like best? Well, I haven't really read it yet. But somebody that plops down the money to buy the book, different story.
Yeah.
Right?
So I totally.
There's no better investment. Go take a money course, do it online, but find somebody. Don't find the pontificator that's just teaching you what they've learned and they're not doing it themselves. Don't go hire a personal trainer that's, out of shape. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Don't hire a financial advisor that's not rich. Don't hire a coach that's not successful themselves. And there's a lot of coaches that aren't successful, but they're life coaches. Like I saw this LinkedIn, the nation's number one life coach. And the lady was 22 years old. I'm like, you're a life coach. Really? You're not even 20% into your life and you're going to profess that you are a life coach. That doesn't seem to make sense. All right, I got to go. Thank you, everybody.
You're the best. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon. And
hey, Fred, you want to offer? I've got a little link for a free chapter of my book. If somebody wants to get in it and learn some selling techniques, you okay with that?
Yeah, whatever you'd like to give our audience, please.
Yeah, always. By the way, here's a lesson for all of you entrepreneurs. What is it that you can give away for free that's high value to the person but low cost to you? Right. So I've taken the best chapter out of my book. Here's my book, The Sales Edge. Right, Freddie, you got a lesson in this at Greg Reed's, remember?
Absolutely.
And go get this free chapter. Just go to thesalesedge.co. Thesalesedge.co. It's not .com because somebody already bought that and was trying to sell it for like $20,000. I'm like, screw that. Thesalesedge.co. Get a free chapter. You're not going to get bombarded with emails and autoresponders. That's not how I do business. But I do always, when I do these podcasts, want to give you something of value because the day may come and you say, hey, we need to get this sales training going, or I need a business growth advisor. And you think of me. Now, I'll send you off to somebody else because I'm full-time in attention to building an engineering firm. But, Freddie, if you set a note to check back in 6 months, I'll let you know how it's going.
Absolutely.
And then in 6 months, to see how well I'm doing, I'll let this audience be my accountability partner. How's that?
I love that. I love that so much. You are definitely invited back in 6 months. And I put the link in the comments. So just click on that link. You can get a free chapter of Gene's book. And, Gene, this was phenomenal. Go coach some football. And I'll see you again in 6 months, man. Thanks so much.
Go make your life a masterpiece, friends.
Absolutely. See you guys.